All Eagle Show, PHLY. There he is, Bo Wulf. Good morning, Bo.
How we doing, cuz?
I like the hat.
Gotta rock the merch.
Yeah.
Got my PHLY hat on. I gotta tell you, yesterday it's like noon. We're at the playground with the kids, and I think to myself, I might as well check out our friends at Game Time, see what the ticket prices are for the Sixers game. Me and my buddy, we just took the subway down, went to the game. It was ugly, cuz.
You were there?
I was there on the upper deck.
So how bad was the takeover? Right?
So here's my take on it. I think that the lower level was like 85-15 Sixers fans. The upper level was like 50-50 and a vocal and like the loudness factor was way heavy on the Sixers or on the Knicks rather. But like there's this obnoxious Knicks fan in front of me who's whistling the whole time and he's having a good time and we had a nice little back and forth. But like he's going crazy in the fourth quarter. And I just tap him on the shoulder. I'm like, buddy, you got to realize nobody hates the Sixers more than Sixers fans.
Right.
Like,
right.
You're barking up the wrong tree. Like, nobody else is more upset with the Sixers' lack of rebounding than the Sixers fans are.
Well, it was funny. I brought this up at the start of the show, Bo, since we're talking about it. You understand this town. You're from here. You get it. It's about grit, heart. It's always been. And the one mortal sin is you can't be out-hearted in a playoff series. The people will not tolerate being out-hearted.
Yeah, I mean, you watch that game and it's like, oh, here we go again. So why would you be like vocally in support of that? Like I sort of get where Embiid is coming from in his comments, but like, give them something to cheer about, give them something to be excited about. And yeah, like that New York team. Like they're not the most talented team,
no.
But they're certainly out hustling the Sixers on the floor and in pretty much every possession.
Listen, I mean, this whole town's been that way. Go back to the whole Flyers thing. The Flyers were always the grit and the hustle team. The Eagles, when they win it, the grit, the hustle, Nick Foles, right? Like all that whole storyline. The Phillies, like it's always been that. Right? That's always been a hallmark of teams and what this town loves. And seeing your team being just crushed, annihilated on the boards, and in the possession where they get 3 offensive rebounds is the nail in the coffin.
Oh my, yeah, it was like the exasperation in the from the Sixers fans on that possession was like, oh my God, here we go again, and it's just like. You're not coming back from that.
No. All right, let's talk draft, though. All right, because I loved this draft. It might be one of my favorite drafts, and I like the last two. But, man, this one was fabulous. Down to getting the kid that we all talked about, Hunt from Houston Christian, that everybody put an asterisk next to. Go, look at him. Everybody, because I talked to some coaches and NFL people, and they were like raving over the Eagles draft.
I think that from the working the board standpoint, this was Howie Roseman's best draft in terms of what he was able to get value-wise. And it all started with being patient in the first round at 22, seeing that those quarterbacks had gone a little bit earlier. You're getting to like 6 picks left, and there's 6 guys that we would love to have. And it's in Howie's MO to trade up in the first round. And if he had done that, it might have been for Quinyon Mitchell. But to be patient there and get Quinyon Mitchell then allowed him to package up at the top of the second round, both second-round picks, get a third back, and go get Cooper DeJean, who I know was on their board as a first-round pick. And if the first round had gone in a slightly different direction, would have been in very serious consideration to be their pick in the first round. So that started the draft addressing a short-term need and one of the more pressing long-term needs on the team. I thought was a great start and the key to the whole thing. You like in the secondary, you need somebody to start opposite Darius Slay, and frankly, you need somebody to replace Darius Slay next season. Like this is probably going to be Darius Slay's last year with the Eagles, and so to have Cooper DeJean, who can maybe do that on the outside, but in the short term can contribute in other ways because of his versatility. I thought that was really, really good process. I would quibble, like, personally, I would have taken Terry and Arnold over
Right.
Quinyon Mitchell,
From
but
Alabama.
these are like, it's a coin flip, and I can understand how you would go in a different direction. Jalyx
Yeah.
Hunt is, go ahead.
No, I was going to bring up the Arnold thing because it's funny. I've been asking a lot of people about that. Like, who did you have higher? And if I heard coin flip the whole time, like, you know, like I went to Spags and I were breaking it down because he loves, like, part of his job for the draft is to break down all those prospects.
Yeah, those are his guys.
And he was missing. Of course, he lost Snead, so it's a big deal for him. So we were talking about both those prospects. He said, listen, I truthfully had him at a coin flip. You want to go Bama just because of the competition. I get it. But this kid's a player, and he loved his loyalty, the fact that he stayed at Toledo, did not go into the portal when, in fact, Saban said this too, that he was his number one target in the portal, right, and he never went into it. So, and
there's a chance he goes to Alabama, then Terry and Arnold doesn't even see the field as much last year, right? Because they had Kool-Aid McKinstry, and he wasn't going to lose his job. It's like Terry and Arnold is a little bit younger and a little bit slower. Quinyon Mitchell is a little bit older and a little bit faster, and doesn't have quite the man-to-man chops that you've seen. But he went to the Senior Bowl, proved that, answered that, aced that test. So it really is a coin flip. I would have leaned Terry and Arnold, but I don't fault them. And it's interesting that, like, we get to see that the Eagles had to declare their choice. They had both on the board, and there's this, like, possibility that if Terry and Arnold goes on to be an All-Pro, we're all going to be like, oh, like, the Eagles could have had him, but I don't fault them for that pick.
No, I think you look at it, and that's like how you grade out the player. I mean, you just look at it in that way. And truthfully, I mean, it's nice to have a corner that can put his nose in the run game, but that's not the prerequisite, right? Like that, again, that's the supermodel who can cook.
I agree. That's that. Maybe Spags wants that, because how much Spags loves guys who can tackle. But yes, for
but
this
he
defense,
loved
maybe
he loved Mitchell. He also loved DeJean, and he said, he goes, dude, I go, slot corner, could help out safety, the whole thing. I mean, Lord knows you're always in nickel and dime. So, having a guy like DeJean is great with his versatility. And he said, I wouldn't even hesitate putting him on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, he has that athleticism to him. He is not a bad athlete. And so, that is, like, the major question with him is, can he do it on the outside? And people who love him think that he can do it. But it's nice to have a player whose baked in floor is that even if he doesn't reach that ceiling on the outside, he's going to be a useful player somewhere else.
So let's talk about Hunt.
Yeah.
No secret from a guy from Houston Baptist. We all kind of knew about him. Again, he was one of the visits. We all talked about him. You and Zach during the show talked about him several times. Baldy and I talked about him several times.
Like 13 hours.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. For those people who don't know about him, why don't you break him down?
Well, yeah. So he starts his college career. Doesn't have a lot of offers. He's like a no-star recruit out of Florida. He's just beginning a growth spurt, and he goes to Cornell to play safety. And he's there for a few years, and he continues to grow at Cornell. Enters the transfer portal, goes to Houston Christian, and is used as an edge guy and has, like, a pretty productive 2 seasons. Not like blow you out of the water sack wise, but like 6.5, 7 sacks, and gets on the radar. Now, if you look at just, like, the physical specifications, a guy with arms as long as he has, who, like, ran what he ran, it's a very small group. You talk about the, like, only so many people in the world like this. He fits that category. I mean, he is absolutely a project. There's no doubt about that. He's not a refined edge rusher, and it's not like he was coached by the world's best position coach at Houston Christian. It's going to take some time. But what is interesting for the Eagles is that timeline is actually kind of ideal, because this year they don't necessarily need a guy in that rotation. You've got Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff and Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat. But Brandon Graham is probably playing his last year, and Josh Sweat's contract is up. So next year, you're going to need bodies. So if they can give him 1 year of development, maybe he contributes on special teams, can be a real part of the rotation next year, that would be ideal. And obviously, I would expect that they're going to attack edge in the draft again next year. But from a believing the story of why this guy can get better, you can see it because he's new to this body type. He has not played this position for a long time, and in this defense, if you're going to be asking him to play in space, I made the comparison on our show about it's like the big man who grew up as a guard and hit his growth spurt, so he has these guard handles, right? This
Yes.
guy is used to playing in space because he was a safety, right? So
Yep.
if you're going to have him play in space, he's got that already in this body. It's the pass rushing part that he has to refine. And Howie Roseman talked about this in the pre-draft press conference. Part of the reason that you bring guys in is like, I'm not going to tell you what Jason Kelsey did. I want you to watch what Jason Kelsey did. And so, okay, Jalyx Hunt, go watch how Brandon Graham attacks the game and the way that he approaches pass rushing. Go watch Josh Sweat, and maybe that will help aid his development.
Yeah, it's a great comp, a great analogy. The kid who gets the late growth spurt, who's got the athleticism and understands a handle, the whole thing, and is blessed with it. It's a great analogy. Will Shipley's interesting in that he's a Taysom Hill type, big, powerful, and just a good. I like just a piece for short yardage and some power.
So I actually think Shipley's is the opposite. He's like 5'11", 206. He's a smaller guy, and he is here to be like a weapon out of the backfield.
Well, in college, though, he was more. They used him in that power role. Like you needed 3rd and 1 because he's quick. They would use him to run the ball.
Right. And the selling point on him for the Eagles is that he can be like a 3rd down piece out of the backfield. Yeah. He's a good pass protector for a younger player. He had over 30 catches each of the past 2 seasons. This is probably the pick of all of them that I was a little bit hesitant about, just because of like the running back value at this point of the draft. They had 3 4th-round picks. They ended up trading 2 of them away. This is the only one they made. I thought this could have been a time to go offensive line earlier, potentially. But I get it. And certainly like they need a body there because Kenny Gainwell is in the last year of his rookie deal. You hope that Saquon's going to be on the field like 85% of the time, but just in case you need a bit of something. One of the things that I look at for college running backs is their yards per carry versus the yards per carry of their teammates, right? So you're comparing apples to apples in the same offense. And that's one of the reasons I didn't love Will Shipley. He's like the only guy who wasn't better at all. It was like the exact same yards per carry, 5.2. Now maybe he was playing with better teammates. You can make that case, but he would not have been my pick here. But I get the story of what he brings to the offense in terms of a specific role.
Well, they used him. It was interesting because he's not a home run hitter, and he was again used more in those 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s. You're going to run the ball. They used him a lot in that role. So I agree. Listen, usually the way the running back value is, you can get a potential, not star, but a guy with a lot of upside in that spot where I think you're saying that Shipley is limited, which I agree with. And
I wonder if there were, Bucky Irving went a couple picks ahead of them, the guy from Oregon who sort of fills a similar role. Maybe that would have been a player. Vince's guy, Isaac Garendo, goes a few picks later, a little bit more explosive.
Yeah.
Braylon Allen from Wisconsin went a few picks later. Different type of player, but probably a better actual running back.
Yeah.
And then Audric Estime from Notre Dame, who I kind of liked, another different type of player. But in terms of value, it was just not my favorite.
Yeah, I that's a good case. I agree. Let's talk about Baby Axe, Trotter Jr. in the 5th round. I mean, you got to love that.
Love it. I thought that was, value-wise, probably their best pick, just in terms of like where guys went. And the concern before the draft that like, if you draft Jeremiah Trotter here, like how's he going to handle those expectations? Is it going to be unfair from the fan base? The way that it worked out, the 5th round, they trade up for him. Nobody is realistically expecting him to come in and be his dad, right? But I see a path to like immediate playing time for Jeremiah Trotter. And you and I talked about this, like timed speed at linebacker. not the biggest deal to me, because if you see it quicker, you're going to get there quicker, right? You're going to make up for that. And I think that like he has a real chance because Nakobe Dean, I like Nakobe Dean, but he has to prove that he can stay healthy. Devin White is a player who has all the tools in the world, but was benched last year because he wasn't reliable. So there's a real opportunity, I think, for Jeremiah Trotter to not just make an impact on special teams, but to play on defense this year. And you saw the call with Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni and Jeffrey Lurie, especially being emotional about it. I think this is a great story, and I don't think it's just a story. I think it's a great fit for what they need because that's their weakest position depth wise. I think Jeremiah Trotter has a real chance to come in and make a real impact.
I'm with you, man. I felt the same way. Obviously, we get the sentimental value of it and what Trot meant to this franchise. And, I lived it with him. We used to do a show, the whole thing. I remember Junior coming to our shows as a kid. I mean, it's amazing. But I'm with you. And he's young. And, again, he's only going to get better. And he's got great instincts. And that's kind of what excites me. I think you get a great value piece in the 5th round. And you said it earlier. That was a position of great need. They have not had depth. They have not had a lot of that position over the years.
Yeah, in terms of like profile, I love the profile. A young player who has 2 full years of starting experience at a big school has those instincts. Sign me up. I think it's maybe their best pick of day 3. Although I also love Dylan McMahon, who I don't know if we want to talk about, but that's my other
I do. Guy. So you got, by the way, both Keegan and McMahon. Like you're going with good value. A lot of guards at that point could flourish. Keegan's from Michigan, and McMahon's from NC State. Like I think you got good prospects there.
Yeah, McMahon is the guy I really like. Now he's probably just a center in the NFL. He's undersized, 6'3", 299. He played all 3 interior positions at NC State. Started as a guard, flipped both sides, and then was a full-time center last year. One thing you look at with offensive linemen that is like for whatever reason tends to be a great indicator of future skill is the short shuttle. It's what Jason Kelsey has like the record for, the short shuttle. And Dylan McMahon was one of the best in this class. So a guy who has position versatility, that he was trusted to read opposing defenses, has those athletic tools to be like a real people mover and has those like quick twitch muscles in his body. Get him with Jeff Stoutland. I feel really good about that value with Dylan McMahon. He was one of my favorite day 3 guys. Trevor Keegan is the opposite type of player, like a big plotter, not necessarily the most fit, like athletically gifted guy, but more of a mauler. And
the traditional Michigan guard, square head, big belly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny they did that at wide receiver too. They took 2 guys of completely opposite body types and completely different skill sets. That's what they did along the offensive line. Keegan is like, I think it's a fine bet. There were like 8 offensive linemen with similar grades. You wanted to take a guy who was a little bit bigger. You go with the pedigree, the guy who won a national championship and was a captain, right? And was smart enough to wear his Deshaun Jackson jersey on the Zoom call with Eagles reporters on Saturday. The wide receivers, Johnny Wilson's fun. I mean, a guy that big with arms that long.
6'6". He's got like a wingspan of a pterodactyl.
Yeah, exactly. We're a big dinosaur household now. My 6-year-old's all about dinosaurs. I'll throw a Quetzalcoatlus at you. That's
wow. That's great dino knowledge right there. Because my son Anthony was a dino kid. Yeah. Still is. Wants to be a paleontologist. So
we got to get them together. They would talk. I'm telling you, Casey would talk his ear off on dinosaurs.
That's awesome. He in fact is going on a dig in Montana.
Really?
In June, yeah.
Oh, I'm just got to hear all about this. I'm going to want to see pictures and show Casey. He's going to love that.
Yeah, it's great.
So Johnny Wilson's fun. He was successful on the outside, which, when you see a guy this big who's a pass catcher, the obvious question is how quickly are we going to move him to tight end, make him a big slot, something like that. The Eagles want to try him on the outside. They think he can do it. We know that they were interested in him in the pre-draft process. They brought him in for a visit. And that's one of the interesting threads of the whole draft. Like they really gave away the answers to the test on a lot of this. Like most of these guys they brought in for pre-draft visits. I think everybody except for Keegan, Shipley, and McMahon. And even those guys, some of them, they signaled interest. So Wilson's fun. It's a good bet to make. You have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith locked up. You need somebody else to be the third guy. And so they've taken a couple shots now with Smith and Wilson and Devontae Parker and Paris Campbell, even Britton Covey. You hope that one of them is able to take that job and run with it. Ainias Smith is again the opposite, shorter, more dynamic and quick, twitched with the ball in his hands. He didn't run like the fastest 40. I think it was like 4.4 something. So part of the reason that he goes in the 5th round, and he didn't have the greatest production at Texas A&M. People will tell you that offense was a mess, and you can't necessarily fault him for that. But he brings value on special teams. It's a shot to take for somebody who can just bring a little bit of playmaking with the ball in his hands.
I'll tell you, Bo, great stuff this weekend. You guys killed it. You covered this thing inside and out. I just want to thank you, man. It was great stuff. I loved it. Loved every second. Your insight is fantastic, brother.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Zach was all over it. He was killing it. He was breaking. Yeah. He was all over what they were going to do. He did an awesome job. And then the guys and girls in production were just like killing it all weekend. It was a pleasure to watch them work.
Thanks. It was awesome. Great work, man. Great work. We'll see you later on. You deserve a lot of rest.
Thanks.
Bo Wulf from the Eagles, all PHLY.
We all silly like the mayor.